So, in the human intrusion, we will be talking about the last remaining modern Homo. The modern Homo means the Homo sapiens. So, even before the last glaciation has begun, the Homo sapien was spreading into the Middle East and also further south into the African continent. So, before that glaciation began, it was the Homo sapien was going towards south in the African continent and in the north towards the Middle East. By the middle of the glaciation, our ancestor had reached the Asian interior and north of the Caspian Sea. So they were moving further towards north into the Asian interior and towards the Central Asia. By the middle of glaciation, they spread across the Tibetan Plateau into the Southeast Asia. So they further traveled towards the east. So from the Middle East towards the Central Asia, from the Central Asia towards the Tibetan Plateau in the modern China. So Australia became populated by about 50,000 years ago, and human had reached northern Europe and Eastern Asia by the time of glaciation was at its peak, that was 20,000 years ago. So the humans were traveling, they were going from places to places, and they were they were populating the newer areas which were having the moderate climates where they can live. So only the Americas remain empty of our species. So the Americas were relatively empty at that time. So the sea levels were at some times when the glaciation was on its peak, there were more and more ice was forming on the poles. There was more and more glaciers were formed. So what will happen to the sea levels? The sea levels will be lowered due to the deposition of ice on the globe, and the sea levels were lower perhaps by around 100 meters. And as we have discussed about the Bering Straits that were formed, the land bridges form across the Bering Straits linking Siberia to the Alaska. So when this land bridge was formed, this is most likely route by which the North America was colonized by the human beings. So here you can see the map showing the probable route taken during the spread of Homo sapiens out of Africa over the past 100,000 years. From the Africa, the human beings are moving towards the Western Africa, towards the Southern Africa, and towards the north, which is the Middle East, and then from Middle East, Central Asia to Europe, Central Asia to the Southeast Asia, and East Asia, and then from there they are moving towards the Bering Strait. In the Southern Asia, they are moving from today's Bangladesh or Thailand region or Mekong Delta towards the Australia from these island chains, and they reached the Australia 50,000 years ago. And then they are from the Bering Strait, they will be reaching towards the North America, and from the North America they are going towards South America. So humans, now we will be discussing about the human population in the North and South America. A human skeleton dated to 13,000 to 12,000 years ago found in Mexico that shows a mixture of Asian and Native American feature. So that means at that time the human population was already there, and then there was more human, they were coming at different times. So the traces of human occupation about 15,500 years north of Austin in Texas and Mount Verde in southern Chile about 14,000 years ago. So at that time, 15 and 14,000 years ago, there were human populations present in the North as well as the South America. The North America being the Texas and South America being the Chile. So human bones dated to about 13,000 years ago found in Channel Islands of California also suggests that some, at least, at the early Americans may have arrived by the boat. So when we see island, the island means that they had some means to go from a continent to the island, that is the boat. So there is evidence of a maritime culture similar to that on the Asian Pacific coast on those same islands. So there were humans which were able to navigate through the oceans to go from one place to another. So a completely different line of inquiry on this problem come from the study of geography of human languages, which suggests that colonization of the New World must have taken place before the major advance of the last glaciation about 22,000 years ago. So uh, the languages, these are very important. The languages evolve in the same manner as the human species evolved. The language is a part of culture, it is part of a population. So if we talk about a particular population and those two populations get separated, the languages in those two different populations will also evolve, just like the species itself or the population itself will be evolving in the at the genetic level. So R.A. Rogers revealed the three distinct groups of Native American languages centered on three ice-free refugial areas of North America during the height of last glaciation. So he says that there were three geographical areas which were free of the ice, and at that time the humans can live on those refugial areas. Refugial means panagahe, the refugial areas are the places which are ice free and the humans can live there. So current view of the most researcher is that there was a single origin for all the Native American people of America. So even though the population came from the north to the south, there is an evidence that all of those people were originated from a single pool of population. So here you can see the three ice-free areas which are refugia, correspond to the language group of the North American. So the southern refugium, northwestern coast refugium, and then there are the Bering refugium. So the two of these areas in the northern Canada and Alaska, and one is mainly on the mainland USA, United States of America of today, and this was happening in the glaciation, the last glaciation of and here you can see these three different areas, and these three different areas, if we see the native population of the Native Americans, which are called Red Indians, we can see that their languages is much more correlated with their genetic patterns as well.